Good morning and welcome to day 3 of Nevada World Trade Week. And for those celebrating Cinco de Mayo, happy Cinco de Mayo. My name is Hector Rodriguez. I'm based here in Las Vegas, supporting Nevada companies' endeavors into the International Exporting Forum. Today, I would like to introduce you to my colleague and good friend, Benedicta Unkwa, from our U.S. consulate in Lagos, Nigeria. Benedicta covers quite a few industries such as oil and gas, renewable energy, environmental, marine, mining, and has oversight for our Sierra Leone office and all of West Africa.
Give me 1 second. Let me get this child.
There's an echo here. Let's see if I can mute you first. 1 second. Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. One part of Benedicta's job duties is to recruit vetted Nigerian buyers to U.S. trade shows. I wanted to highlight that because we are in a pandemic and our world has changed quite a bit. But even though she can't remember how many total delegations she's recruited for and led to the U.S., she usually recruits about 3 delegations per year pre-pandemic, with an average size of delegates between 20 and 30 buyer delegates. And hopefully Benedicta can tell us how many years she's worked with the U.S. Department of Commerce. I know I've known her since 2004 or 2008 or 9, something like that. So Benedicta, welcome, and thank you for staying a bit longer, being that you're 8 hours ahead. The floor is yours. And you're on mute, Benedicta.
Thank you, Hector. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. And, we're very, very excited that you're interested in learning a little bit more about Nigeria and the opportunities that Nigeria offers to U.S. companies. Like Hector said, my name is Benedicta Unkwa. I'm a senior commercial specialist here at the U.S. Commercial Service Nigeria. I've been working for the government for 20 years. Actually, July will make it 20 years that I've been working with the government.
Wow, so, congratulations.
Thank you. So I've known Hector for a long time, and a lot of my colleagues have become not just colleagues, they've become friends. So I will try to share my screen. I do have a PowerPoint slide that I will be talking off of, but I won't really dwell on a lot of them. I will share that PowerPoint after the event. I would mostly dwell with what the best opportunities are. I will also try to highlight some of the challenges in the market and then let you know that there are ways that you can actually navigate those challenges and still be able to do business. Okay, so just give me a minute. Let me upload the slides. I understand that a lot of you already know about Nigeria, know who we are as a commercial service. Well, just a slight information. I know sometimes you have foreigners refer to the country as, oh, I've been to Africa. Africa is a continent, and that continent has over 54 countries that make up the African continent. But Nigeria is one of the countries that are in the West African part of the continent, and Nigeria was Anglo-colonized a while back, so we all speak English everywhere. So let's start. So Nigeria, I think you do know about a lot of the demographics for Nigeria. Nigeria does have over 200 million population. This is mostly a youthful population. So the government is doing their best to see how they can make very good use of that youthful population. the country. It's very well known for its natural and human resources. It's one of the world's known oil and gas countries. It also is, I think, let me look at Nigeria for you. It's usually we like to say that Nigeria is twice the size of California. So that kind of helps you know how big or small it is in comparison to the US. Nigeria has a lot of languages. These are dialects that we speak in country, but the main ones are in the east, Igbo, in the north, Hausa Fulani, and in the west, Yoruba. So we have a very eclectic and diverse culture in country. It's reflected in the dance, in the entertainment, in the food, in the fashion that we have in country. So ideally, Nigeria is a very interesting place to visit, whether you are coming for tourism or you're coming for business. Nigerians are very pro-American. They're very entrepreneurial. They really like American products. American product is viewed as being of high quality and standards. So if you're trying to come into Nigeria to do business, there are a couple of things that we think you should know about the country. First, let's talk about the economy. Like every other country in the world, we are all been hit by the COVID pandemic, and so we're reeling from the effects of that. And aside from that issue, we've also been struggling with the dwindling price of oil that had taken place and actually made the country to falter before the pandemic. So the country did go into recession in 2016, but it came out of that recession. And then it was the double whammy of the pandemic also hit it again. But we are actually getting out of business. So Nigeria has been almost a mono economy. The country has been focusing mostly on its oil revenue. So as a result of that, it means that anytime there are issues with the global oil price, the country gets impacted negatively or positively, as the case may be. So the government is doing their best to try to diversify the revenue base and the economy. So there's been a lot of focus on the non-oil sector.
Ngozi, real quick, Ngozi,
yeah.
if you can go back to that one slide right there, and if you can explain for everyone, because that's a good representation of Africa, and what those dots actually mean for everyone.
Okay. So here, Nigeria is one of the U.S. Commercial Service operates offices in these countries that are the red dots. So these are the countries where we operate offices in sub-Saharan Africa. In addition, all these offices also oversee and have an oversight function over certain other countries in the region that do not operate a commercial service. So we have an arrangement with the State Department called the Partnership Program. And within that program, offices that have commercial service have oversight function over offices that don't operate a commercial service. So for instance, in Nigeria, I oversee the Sierra Leonean partner post and a lot of all the non-partner posts in West Africa. So you have things like Togo, Mali, and all that. Nigeria as a post oversees Benin Republic, Gabon, Sierra Leone, Cameroon, Sao Tome and Principe. And so you find out that we are able to facilitate American companies getting into those countries by working with our State Department colleagues in the economic session to execute commercial service branded programs for American companies. So that's why you have that map of Africa and you have those red dots where commercial service operates offices, as well as several of the partner posts that we also oversee. So anyone who is interested in coming to Africa should not feel that they will be stranded. There will be someone to facilitate and access into that market. So Nigeria, like I was saying, it's a very high importing country. And so what that means is that it has created a lot of opportunities in several sectors. Within our country commercial guide, this is a document that we put out every year to provide an investment look, an economic outlook of how the country is. And we highlight best sectors that we feel offer American companies prospects for exports of their goods and services. So if you see there, you see that oil and gas takes pride of place, followed by power and energy and every other sector that is listed. These are areas where if you are operating in these sectors, there is a good chance you have a good market for your products in Nigeria. So let me start with the energy sector. A lot of times, Nigeria tends to, a lot of people know Nigeria for the energy sector, and so they tend to think that that's only what Nigeria is all about. It is a very key industry because that's where the government makes most of its revenue, but it is not the only active industry. So Nigeria does have, actually, apparently, it's more of a gas province than an oil and gas country. So in as much as the government has been focused more on the oil industry, there's actually a whole lot of gas in country that requires exploiting and harnessing. And so that's where you come in as an American company. If you have technology for gas flare capturing, if you have technology for terminals, gas plants, if you have technology for LNG, small to mid-sized scale LNG, if you have technology for CNG, compressed natural gas, liquefied petroleum gas, everything along the gas value chain, there is an opportunity for that. Nigeria does have the signature Nigerian LNG project, which exports LNG to Europe and the rest of the world. But the government has, as part of its environmental, initiative, have decided to harness the gas that is being flared at the oil sites into power and industry. And so they initiated a program called the Gas Flare Commercialization Program. There are lots of opportunities within this industry and within this initiative for US equipment and services. Nigeria is also building a lot of infrastructure because we have issues with infrastructure deficit. So the country is building a lot of infrastructure related to the oil industry. And this includes refinery, the Dangote refinery, the Bua refinery, they are quite well known. You have methanol, you have fertilizer, you have pipeline network. Recently, the government awarded a contract called the AKK pipeline, and that contract is worth billions of dollars, and that is offering opportunities for quite a lot of equipment and services in terms of pipeline. Nigeria is also trying to focus on the power sector as well. It did a reform a while back in 2004. It now divested itself of the value chain in the power sector, but it is still in charge of the transmission network. And as a result of that, there are generating companies and distribution companies, and they are providing services as private sector entities. There are opportunities within the power sector in Nigeria. In fact, the Power Africa team, which is a subset of the USAID, are very active in this sector, and they are able to also let you know what the projects are within this sector. All in all, we actually recently did a webinar for the National Oil Company, the NNPC, and they highlighted a number of infrastructure projects that they are keen to have American input into. So we had a webinar for the NNPC on April 1st, and then we had about 205 American companies dial in for that webinar to listen to top-level NNPC officials discuss and give more details about these infrastructure projects, which range from the downstream, the midstream, the upstream, even health, agric, and ICT were also included. These are opportunities that are really open for American technology and expertise. Aside from the energy sector, the agri sector is actually another sector that does contribute 22% to GDP, and it offers a whole lot of opportunity. At the moment, most of the farms are government-owned or private sector entities, and these are actually offering a lot of opportunity. The government had actually initiated a number of programs in the agri sector to facilitate farmers' access to fertilizer, higher yield production, and provide loans for the farmers to increase productivity and their agri products. So agribusiness is one of our key best sector for American companies. The government also is looking at a way to help in cold storage systems, because quite a lot of time you find out that the agri products are all wasted when they are out of season because of lack of cold storage or processing. So if you're involved in cold storage, if you're involved in processing, if you're involved in food packaging, you do have opportunity within the agri sector.
Benedicta, if you could move your slide to the ag sector slide.
I am on the agri sector slide.
Oh, it looks like it froze on.
Oh, sorry. Oh, maybe it's frozen. Just give me a minute and I'll try to get it. Okay, yeah. Yes. So this is it. So that's quite a number of opportunities, and the government is, through the central bank, is providing loans and funding to facilitate expansion of agricultural inputs into the market. Another sector that is really thriving and surpassing expectation is the fintech sector. The fintech sector, it has been doing so well, even despite the pandemic. Lots of Nigerian fintech companies have been attracting funding and investor fund into the country. In fact, that sector is estimated to reach about $543 million in year 2022. So a number of the fintech companies are doing quite well within the country.
Oh, 1 second, Benedicta. Karen,
yes,
can you see the fintech sector slide? Or someone on the call?
No, I cannot. I'm still only seeing energy sector.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay.
Are you seeing it now?
Not yet.
Okay, just hanging a bit. Are you seeing it now?
Yeah, I see fintech now. That's great.
Okay. Thank you. Perfect. So we also have other industries that provide a lot of opportunities for US-made equipment and services. So for instance, if you look at the healthcare sector, Nigeria spends billions in what we call health tourism. Nigerians go to London, to the EU, to India, to South Africa, to the US for medical services. So these are areas that if you have equipment or services, if you need to partner with healthcare providers, a number of US firms, cancer research, are all now making inroads into the country, and they're getting successes out of that. Within this slide, I've actually tried to provide a number of some of these opportunities just to whet your appetite, just to kind of let you know that no matter what sector you're looking at, safety and security, there are lots and lots of opportunities in that sector. If it's in terms of transport sector, there are opportunities for rail, there's opportunity for aviation in terms of MROs, and there are opportunities also in terms of automotives. So whatever sector you operate in, so long as you have a good product, you most surely will have an opportunity in Nigeria to find the right partner and then be able to sell. So the next thing that I would like to dwell on is some of the tips that I think you should be cognizant of. If you're a new exporter, I wouldn't encourage you to try Nigeria as your first port of call. Nigeria can be a challenging market, very rewarding market, no doubt, but it can be very challenging if you're not used to exporting. So we will rather suggest that you try to work with, export to other countries first before coming to Nigeria. In as much as that is the case, Nigeria, it can also be the gateway for other West African countries, even the sub-Saharan African region.
And Benedicta,
So
your slide again didn't move.
we are on the tips for successful business in Nigeria.
Yeah, right now I can see fintech.
For real.
Actually, I see tips for successful business.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yes.
Okay.
It did advance.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay. So you would have heard about the famous advanced fee fraud, ACA 419 scams that are bound. Some of them aren't always all Nigerians, but majority are Nigerians. So we here at the U.S. Commercial Service, we do have facilities to help you mitigate some of those things. If it is too good to be true, it usually is too good to be true. So no matter that the scams abound, we do have certain programs that we can use to help you verify and identify a bona fide legitimate partner to work with within the country. So here in the commercial service, we offer what we call international company profile, through which we provide due diligence on potential Nigerian partners that wish to work with American companies. We also have another program called Networking with the USA. It is a very special program created by the CS Nigeria office. It is also how we used to vet Nigerian companies who are seeking access to American partners and American products and services. So due diligence is critical. That's just what it means. We have to do your due diligence in order to identify the right trade lead, the right transaction, the right partner. We would normally suggest that you ask for payment in full before shipments. Typically, this is done through wire transfer, but on a number of cases, a letter of credit is actually advisable. It safeguards both parties, because sometimes if you're not sure and you've wired your money, and that's the end of it. So advice here will be, when in doubt, do check it out. You can check it out by contacting our offices, and then we will help you verify whether it's a legitimate trade lead that you're dealing with. Other challenges that we have in country, I earlier mentioned that Nigeria is a country of over 200 million people. But unfortunately, the average electricity generated in country is 4,000 megawatts. So that's woeful. It's not enough to go around. So you have quite a number of people self-generating with generator sets. So what you should have in mind is that in as much as I'm mentioning some of these challenges offer opportunities if you are a manufacturer of equipment related to those challenges or a provider of services regarding those challenges. So for instance, lots of people sell generating sets, you sell transmission cables, spare parts and consumables for power stations, gas plants, turbines. These all have high value in opportunities in country. The infrastructure, as I earlier mentioned, is not up to par. We have really a lack of infrastructure, and the infrastructure across both the road, the rails, the port, the airports, So these are the areas that I highlighted in the earlier slide in terms of where the opportunities are. So if you come to the ports, there's port security, software for ports, port infrastructure. If you look at airports, airport runway, MROs, hangars, consumables, If you look at roads, construction of roads, same thing, rails. Chinese people are making a whole lot of projects for rails in country now as we speak. So those are areas where opportunities exist if you are providing equipment or services in any of these sectors. Insecurity is high in country. We do have a lot of insecurity in the northern part of the country. We have a lot of what has been termed banditry and insurgency in the north. That's causing a whole lot of issues in terms of internally displaced people, in terms of impact on agriculture, because the farmers can go to farm, you know. So these issues are what the government is trying to battle with to determine or decipher the best approach to mitigate this insecurity. Nigeria is a bureaucracy, so obviously government moves things slowly. So you have to have patience when you want to deal with Nigeria. You just don't expect that if you send an email today, things are going to work out. You don't just expect that if you do a tender today, in 1 month time, it's going to be announced. Things move slowly here. Just be aware of it and have patience. What I can suggest is that if you're patient, if you're dogged, if you persevere, you will reap the reward. Nigeria is a very rewarding market once you're able to overcome some of the bottlenecks that you face. I did mention that the country faced a recession a while back. That's in 2016. And so as a result of that, the currency took a hit. And so the Central Bank of Nigeria was trying to shore up the currency by a lot of initiatives. So these currency controls have also impacted business because it became difficult for importers to actually access foreign exchange for their imports. So that is one challenge that the government is trying to look at. At the moment, the exchange rate is between 380 naira to 410 naira to $1. So it fluctuates between that band. But the government says they're trying to mitigate that by ensuring that we have a steady exchange rates regime. One other thing that is important, Hester mentioned the fact that I lead trade delegations to the US. One other thing that is important is visa process. Because Nigerians are pro-Americans, because Nigerians like America, they like everything to do with America, they like to travel to the US, visa process is a huge issue here. So we have very stringent visa processes. We tend to have high visa denials because you have a lot of people who really shouldn't be traveling, wanting to travel. But here at the CS Nigeria Commercial Service, we do a lot of vetting and due diligence before we actually recruit a company to join us for any trade event in the US. But just bear in mind that sometimes visa issues can be a hindrance to a potential partner traveling to meet with you to inspect either an equipment they're trying to buy or to conclude the transaction. You'll find out that Nigerians tend to want to pay half payment for an equipment and then come and inspect it, see it, feel it, and everything before they conclude payment. If they're not able to do that, they more often than not will not conclude that transaction. So visa becomes a huge issue in that regard. But nonetheless, we do have the consular section working hand in hand to support our efforts in the trade office. Despite all these challenges, a whole lot of American companies are operating in country. I'm just giving you a small snapshot of some of the companies that are, and they range from the big companies like the multinational oil companies, and they have also the money companies like the Visa and MasterCard. You have the banks, you have Citibank operating in Nigeria. You have all the ICT companies, the HP, the IBMs. You have also Coca-Cola, quite a number of companies that are American companies are operating in countries. So those also offer you an opportunity to learn best practices if you need to come into the country. So the US government also offers a number of resources and tools to American companies that are going international. So I've just given you just a small list of some of the agencies that operate in country and provide services and support for American companies. And I do have within the slide a small description of what each agency does. But I just want to highlight the key ones. Exim Bank, I think you know, the support procurements from the US. USTDA, they provide grants for feasibility studies and orientation visits and pre-project funding. And then DFC, that's Development Finance Corporation, which also provides long-term funding for infrastructure projects. These are all very active in country and they do very well supporting US entities. So these are some of the additional information that I'm providing on these US entities. Let me stop here a little bit, just in case some people have questions. We can go back to some of the slides if need be, and then we can then dive deeper into some of the areas that are of interest to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Benedicta, for the presentation. So first, if anyone does want the slides so you can look at them more in depth, then just send me an email and I can send that to you. This session is recorded, so I will be putting this in our Nevada newsletter. That way you can look at it at your leisure as well. But if you have any questions, either on the phone or in the chat, you're more than welcome to write them in or unmute yourself now and ask a question to Benedicta regarding your export endeavors into Nigeria and or the region. We'll wait a few seconds. If not, I do have a question that I think needs to be highlighted. And I'll start with the first one then. Being that buyers are not traveling to the U.S. because of the pandemic and increase in visa restrictions, et cetera. How can a U.S. company engage with vetted or with companies in Nigeria, either B2B platforms? What do we have to offer? What is offered by others? What's the general marketplace for U.S. companies in Nigeria?
Thank you for that question, Hector. Incidentally, we have, adapted ourselves and our lives to the new norm that we're living in. So within this scenario, we have been providing our services on a virtual basis. In lieu of doing a gold key where you have to travel, and there are lots of issues with travel. For instance, different countries have different COVID restrictions. Here in Nigeria, we have, the government has instituted a COVID protocol that requires you to self-quarantine for 7 days on arrival. You do a test after that self-quarantine after the 7th day. If that test is negative, then you are then allowed to go in out of the quarantine area. You also have to, pay for that quarantine and the testing by yourself. So the government is trying to dissuade people from, just moving around too much. We are maintaining our social distance posture. The government is not allowing large crowd gatherings for events. And then even when you do, you are mandated to be masked. You can see I'm masked within this, even though I'm just the only one in the conference room now, but I'm masked. So that's what the government is doing. So as a result, what we've done is try to adapt a whole lot of our services virtually. So we've been providing virtual international partner surge, and with a virtual introduction, it's been very successful. We're reporting successes from partnerships signed from that service. We are also doing virtual trade fair, where we use platforms to do business matchmaking meetings. We are doing virtual single company promotion, where we have, different target audience dialing, just a few number, maybe under 20 can be in the venue physically, but the rest will sign in digitally. We're doing that. We are also doing hybrid events where some conferences will, you will have a virtual platform to access the conference session, to do B2B, and then just a few people would attend the physical session. Today we had a meeting with the members of the Lagos Chamber, and we're going to be partnering with them to do a virtual trade fair. So all in all, business is booming in terms of the virtual life. We are trying as best we can to maintain the COVID protocol as instituted by the government and the CDC, and we are trying to ensure that everyone is actually keeping to this rule. The government rolled out in March the COVID vaccine. They rolled out the AstraZeneca doses they got from the COVAX program. So that's what's been going on, but that's the first dose. The second dose hasn't come out. So that's what the country is doing at the moment. We hope that by the time the vaccine gets around to everybody, then we will be much more freer to move around for business. Thank you.
Okay, and we do have a question in the chat, and the question is, the company has a Nigerian customer that's been waiting for about 9 months for a permit from the DPR to install a processing plant in Nigeria to produce ULSD for automobiles and VLSFO for bunker fuels. Is it typical for the government to take that long for permitting? And also, we can connect you with Barry with a question that way if it involves more conversation. But for now, is that normal that it takes 9 months and longer?
Not really, especially not within the oil industry, because that's where you have a lot of highly educated, high technical people who are used to moving things. I mean, in the oil industry, time is money, obviously. Any downtime is money. So normally, the Department of Petroleum Resources is the regulator for all oil and gas activity in the country. So normally, it doesn't take that long. But I think a lot of things are backed up by virtue of the COVID and the social distancing and the lockdown. And, so these have sort of impacted the timelines for executing services, even within our office, So that's not really a usual time. Then the second thing that could cause the delays could be if there's been change in officials at the agency, or change in the policy, or a change in the focus of the country by the government. This can all impact the length of time for the project that you're doing. But I think what I may suggest is that you can send me more details via email, and we could try to find out what seems to be the issue in regards to this specific project. But normally, it usually doesn't take this long. Yes, Nigeria does have an issue with the ease of doing business, and the country has been working very hard to digitize some of their processes, create transparent, like the one they have in the oil industry called the Procurement Exchange. It's an online platform. So the government has been trying to modernize a lot of some of these processes to reduce the time required to process either official documents or company documents or do some of these projects. So, but 9 months does sound like a long time. There could be some other issues involved. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Barry, do you have a follow-up? And also, if you want to email Benedicta, her email will show up shortly. But I'll leave the floor to you, Barry.
Well, thank you very much. You might be right. Some of it. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, some of it could very well be COVID related, and I believe DPR moved their headquarters somewhere else in the country from their original location last year, and some of that may have an effect. But basically, now this company is looking at installing the plant in the United States and shipping fuels over to Nigeria, which of course is good for the United States, but it's not so great for Nigeria and puts them at a disadvantage in Nigeria. So I'm thinking that maybe the thing to do is I could put you in contact with that customer and have those conversations directly, rather than me being an intermediary and misinterpreting anything.
Yeah, and that's not a problem. We can have a meeting, but it's going to be a virtual meeting because we're not fully back in the office. We alternate between the days we go to the office and telework. That's one. Secondly, if you recall, our main mandate is to American companies, not to Nigerian companies. So depending on how the scenario he describes, I'd have to have a meeting with him to understand what the issues are. But typically, our mandate is to American companies specifically. Obviously, we do work with our Nigerian companies because it's a two-way street. But feel free to link me up with your Nigerian partner, then we'll have a conversation. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Benedicta, and thank you, Barry. Any other questions? I do have two more that came in, but anyone on the phone, unmute yourself and ask away. Benedicta, if you can go back to the U.S. companies in Nigeria slide. There's while you're going to there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are they grouped in a certain region, or are they spread out throughout the country?
Lagos is the commercial nerve center in arguably the biggest commercial nerve center in West Africa, if not the whole of Africa. So everybody have their headquarters in Lagos. All the multinational oil companies have their headquarters in Lagos, in as much as the assets and the resources are in the Niger Delta. So a whole lot of all these companies have offices in Lagos and Abuja, the political capital, and then maybe somewhere else where they have a lot of markets. So like I said, if it's the oil industry, they have a lot of facility and assets in the Niger Delta region, the south part of the country, but everybody does have an administrative office in Abuja or a liaison office in Abuja and the big office in Lagos. So all of them they all have locations in Lagos. Kimberly Clark just opened the brewery here in a state very close to Lagos, Ogun State. And that's something that, if you notice, we have a lot of US beer brands that are coming country and are succeeding very well. Thank you.
Okay. And I have one last question, and putting you on the spot, Benedicta. And considering the pandemic, usually we do fee-based services for US companies that are traveling into the country. We've modified that a bit into virtual services, but in your memory, in your recent memory, can you just give the audience a success story of a company that used one of our services to either, whatever their end use was, if they wanted a distributor or if they sold into the country, but just one of those SMEs that were successful using one of our fee-based services?
I have more than one, just within the
Really?
the COVID area. Let me give you an example. You remember that because of the impact of the COVID on businesses, our headquarters decided to do a fee waiver policy last year. Within that fee waivers period, I coordinated over 7 to 8 IPS plus virtual introduction services. Out of that, I've written success stories on 4. They've appointed Nigerian partners for their project. So that's in terms of during the COVID, all right? Aside of the COVID, we've had lots of successes with Nigerian companies that are either buying equipment, say like dredgers, aquatic harvesters in Nigeria during the November-December period, which is what we call our dry season. You have the water hyacinth flow from other sub-Saharan African region and cover the water surface. So the government uses these harvesters. It's manufactured by a US company. They use these harvesters by the Nigerian inland waterways to clear the waterways of the harvester. So that's a success story already. I can go on and let you know. And this is just me. There are others that my colleagues have done. For instance, my colleague that handles the medical sector has done $1 million transaction with Zipline, and another one with Varian. Varian opened the cancer diagnostic center here, and Zipline uses their drones to deliver medical supplies. So the lots of transactions that are going on, even in the virtual life that we're living now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Benedicta, if you can put your slide of your contact information, that way,
okay.
If anyone needs it, it's there. And if there's, let's open it up one more time for questions, either on the phone or unmute yourself. Otherwise, Benedicta, thank you for your time. I know that it's late, you're 8 hours ahead, so thank you for staying a little bit longer for us. And we will put this out, as I mentioned, into our newsletter, the recording. And thank you.
Thank you, Hector, and thank you everyone that called in. I'm quite impressed that people are getting back to business. People are trying to revive their business. It is because of you that we work, and so it's not a problem for me to be speaking with you today, and I don't mind because that's my bread and butter. Working with companies to help them find opportunities. So no problem at all. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Benedicta, and thank you everyone for attending. I know it's Cinco de Mayo, so we only have one session today, and that way you have the rest of the day off. Go have some fun.
Enjoy.
See you guys.
Take care, everyone.